Good, happy Tuesday evening. I'm Riley King. Welcome to this Tuesday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday evening, so let's get started right now. First up, Biden doubles order for Pfizer COVID-19 pill. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
President Biden addressed the American people today amid the unprecedented surge in COVID cases, and he said the federal government is investing more into the fight. CBS's Ed O'Keefe is at the White House with the new details.
With millions of kids heading back to school this week and several 100,000 starting remote learning, President Biden weighed in.
We have no reason to think at this point that Omicron is worse for children than previous variants. We know that our kids can be safe when in school, by the way. That's why I believe schools should remain open.
To deal with the spike in Omicron cases nationwide, the president said he would double the purchase of Pfizer's antiviral pill from 10 million to 20 million, with the first half available by June. It's proven 89% effective at preventing severe illness and death.
They're a game changer and have the potential to dramatically alter the impact of COVID-19.
But the administration still gets low marks on how it's handling the pandemic. A persistent concern is access to testing.
Everyone sold out a test till Saturday. I called around, so it's hard to even find somewhere to go.
I spent 2 days trying to find a place.
I know this remains frustrating. Believe me, it's frustrating to me.
There is a sense among many that the country has lost control of the virus. Would the White House agree with that?
We would not. We're in a very different place than we were a year ago, Ed. 200 million people are vaccinated. We have also just purchased the largest over-the-counter purchase of tests in history, 500 million tests.
But the details of that bulk purchase of tests won't be sorted out for a few more weeks, meaning it could be several more after that until Americans get those tests, as long lines for tests persist nationwide. Nora?
Ed O'Keefe, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Albany District Attorney won't pursue Cuomo criminal charge. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
Well, just 3 days before former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was set to appear in court to answer the misdemeanor charge that he forcibly touched an aide, the charge has been dropped. CBS's Drika Duncan explains what happened.
The latest criminal investigation into former Governor Andrew Cuomo has come to an end. The Albany County District Attorney's Office found the accuser, Brittany Commisso, to be cooperative and credible, but said after review of all the available evidence, we have concluded that we cannot meet our burden at trial. Back in August, Commisso, a former executive assistant to then Governor Cuomo, publicly accused him of groping her in an office in the executive mansion.
He put his hand up my blouse and cupped my breast over my bra.
Cuomo was scheduled for his first court appearance this Friday to face the charge of forcible touching. CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman.
The fact that it was dismissed by the district attorney, despite the credibility of the accuser, is monumental news.
But Cuomo maintained he never touched anyone inappropriately. He stepped down shortly after a report was released accusing him of sexually harassing multiple women.
The best way I can help now is if I step aside.
The Albany DA is now the fourth prosecutor to decide not to pursue charges against Cuomo. Do you think the outcome of this case discourages other alleged sexual assault victims out there?
I have no doubt that other women who will be sexually assaulted and have legitimate claims may just feel it is useless to go forward.
Cuomo's attorney says she has no comment. As for Brittany Commisso's attorney, he says that his client will continue to seek justice through civil action. Nora?
Drika Duncan, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Insurrection prompts change for Capitol Police. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
Is Kelly eating eggs made from plants to stand by a new vegan man and join him in his mission to fix a cruel animal?
Well, there's breaking news tonight from here in Washington. Congressional investigators looking into the deadly assault on the U.S. Capitol want to talk to Fox News host Sean Hannity about his communications with former President Trump and his top advisors on the day of the attack. Also today, 3 more police officers sued the former president for their physical and emotional scars from that day. 1 year later, CBS's Chris Van Cleve looks at the toll on the Capitol Police Force.
Almost 1 year on, the U.S. Capitol Police Department is still recovering and changing its tactics in an increasingly violent political climate. Chief Tom Manger.
Could a January 6th happen again?
The short answer is I don't believe so. But there could be a situation where something unexpected happens that we're not prepared for. We've got to be in a posture where we think of everything and that we are trying to prepare for everything.
We gained exclusive access to new Capitol Police training efforts, part of the wholesale changes underway. Key intelligence is now being shared with rank-and-file officers, and field offices have been opened in Florida and California to help respond to threats against lawmakers, about 9,600 last year alone. But the department still needs to hire 400 more officers. About 130 left the agency last year.
The threat level is much higher than it was a year ago.
How big is the risk that something slips through the cracks?
We're managing at this point, but if we want to really get to a point where we want to be, where we should be, it's going to take more time to get more people in place.
Low morale has been a challenge. Roughly 140 police officers were injured by rioters on January 6th, attacked with bear spray, flag poles, fire extinguishers, even table legs.
Every day for me it's been a January 6th.
Sergeant Aquilino Gunnell is still recovering from his injuries after he was almost crushed to death battling the angry mob.
If we don't put a deterrent and hold people accountable for what they did, this will be a recurring issue.
Congress has passed millions in new funding to bolster the Capitol Police, but Ohio Democrat Tim Ryan, who chairs a committee with oversight of the force, says there's more work to do.
You know, we've taken some positive steps in the right direction, but there's a hell of a long way for us to go.
In addition to the events planned here at the Capitol to mark the anniversary on Thursday, former President Trump had planned a press conference in Florida. Tonight, he canceled it. Nora?
All right, Chris Van Cleve, thank you.
Okay, there you go on that video and that report. U.S. tops 1 million daily COVID cases. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
Hey, Dad, you want to invite some friends over to watch the game?
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, the COVID tidal wave health officials warned about is here, with the U.S. shattering its single-day record of new cases. And the big concern tonight, pediatric hospitalizations and childhood infections are also setting pandemic records. The fast-spreading Omicron variant is being blamed for all of it, with cases doubling every few days. And there's some breaking news tonight out of the CDC after facing criticism from top health officials about its guidance for those isolating with COVID. There's a new update on what you should do after testing positive. And we're also seeing long lines of people at testing sites. Hospitals and their staffs also pushed to the brink. One in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was forced to close its maternity ward because of COVID-related staffing shortages. And it's not just healthcare. Museums and stores are also impacted. Macy's tonight announcing it will cut store hours for the rest of the month. CBS's Omar Villafranca is outside a testing site in Fort Worth with the very latest. And Omar, let's begin with that new guidance tonight from the CDC.
Good evening. The CDC originally said you should isolate for 5 days if you test positive. Well, tonight, they have updated their guidance. They're saying after isolating for 5 days, if you still have symptoms, you should get a COVID test, but it's not required. That's if you can find a COVID test. These people are waiting in line to try to get one of those tests at one of 8 locations here in Tarrant County. What they're finding is not good. The positivity rate here in Texas is more than 33%.
Omicron is omnipresent.
The CDC announcing today it now makes up an estimated 95% of all cases nationwide. Dr. Peter Hotez with the Baylor College of Medicine says Omicron may not be as severe as Delta, but it is spreading faster.
Well, it clearly is more contagious, more transmissible, and it looks like it's reaching levels that almost approximate measles, which is really the most common, highly transmissible virus agent we know. What we'll see is this wave of Omicron will ultimately be as serious and dangerous as previous waves.
As new COVID cases topped 1 million, COVID hospitalizations reach more than 100,000 nationwide, numbers on par with last summer's Delta surge. And now, COVID cases in kids are higher than at any point in the pandemic. Only 33% of kids 5 to 17 are fully vaccinated. More than 325,000 pediatric cases were reported for the week ending December 30th, and hospitalizations are at the highest they've ever been, 672 a day, a 114% increase since last week, all as kids head back to school. Dr. Mary Suzanne Whitworth of Cook Children's in Fort Worth, Texas, has watched as more kids are admitted to her hospital, a majority of them unvaccinated.
Over the last 2 weeks, they've tripled and quadrupled in numbers. It's been a rapid rise.
The number of patients isn't the only concern. The surging number of cases means healthcare workers are also getting infected and can't report to work.
And that's the danger point of Omicron, is that 1-2 punch of people still coming into hospitals and not enough healthcare providers to take care of them.
With the holiday weekend over, people from California to Texas to New York are waiting in long lines to take a rapid or PCR test, if they're available.
I spent 2 days trying to find a place.
Because of surging cases, more than 215 school districts across the country have switched over to remote learning. In Chicago, there might not be any classes tomorrow if the teachers' union votes tonight to refuse to go to work in person. Nora, that is the nation's third largest school district.
Omar Villafranca with all those details. Thank you.
Okay, there you go on that video and that report. Drivers endured frigid night on impassable highway. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
Tonight, there's some good news after an epic travel nightmare on one of the busiest corridors in America. After a dire 27 hours, Virginia transportation officials say the road is clear of drivers and no one is stuck on I-95. CBS's Errol Barnett has all the latest reporting.
We've been in the car for about 17, going on 18 hours.
This was the nightmare on I-95.
I have never been this frightened on the road before.
40 miles of Virginia interstate came to a standstill after more than a foot of snow blanketed the region.
There is nothing moving on Interstate 95. It is a parking lot.
Among them, Virginia Senator and former Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine, stranded for over 26 hours.
The only thing I ate was one orange, and the only liquid I had was one 16-ounce Dr. Pepper.
It's been 21 hours.
Stephanie Rodriguez kept her 6 and 11-year-olds warm by covering them in clothes packed in their luggage.
The handles of my car were all ice. It was really scary.
Officials blame heavy rain that fell ahead of the intense snow, preventing them from treating the highway. By 2 a.m. today, the road was completely shut down. There were no reports of any deaths or injuries, but elsewhere there were 5 storm-related deaths, including 2 children who died when trees crushed their homes in Georgia and Tennessee. Hundreds of thousands of Virginia customers are still without power. And more than 4,600 flights have been canceled since Monday, in part due to the storm.
Found a flight from American to get to Chicago today and then jump back on United coming to D.C. so we can get a car and drive to Richmond. But apparently the roads are shut down.
Now, tonight, Virginia officials report all stranded passengers along I-95 have in fact been rescued, but a major portion of the freeway south of where I am in Springfield remains closed, so workers can extract and remove the more than dozen stranded and abandoned vehicles there. So, Nora, it may just be a few more hours before the entire stretch of this key highway for the Mid-Atlantic is fully reopened.
I mean, what a story. Errol Barnett, thank you.
Wow. And let's switch gears now and let's go into weather. And here is a look at your weather for tonight. In Boston, 27 degrees. New York City, 30 degrees. Washington, D.C., 26 degrees. Atlanta, 38 degrees. Jacksonville, Florida, 53 degrees. Tampa Bay, Florida, 58 degrees. And Miami, Florida, 69 degrees. In Dallas is 38 degrees. In Las Vegas, 35 degrees. Los Angeles, 43 degrees. Phoenix, 39 degrees. And San Francisco, 50 degrees. That is a look at the weather across the United States for this evening. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Have a great evening. Good night and goodbye.